Update. Ex-wife opened 2 credit cards in my name in the amount of $6,000. She is threatening to withhold my visitation rights for our son if I turn her in. Original post. This is a sad situation, but after my divorce, I ended up moving about 30 miles away, where I bought a house and got a job transfer. The divorce was finalized about 4 years ago. She got primary custody, as she lives in a school district, though I get most weekends and holidays. We've been fairly cordial about it, and it's been working for a while. Eventually, I'd like to get to a 50-50, as she'll be moving to a different school district once he hits high school shortly, and I'd just move into that district. My problem is that my ex has opened up a couple of credit cards in my name. I had no idea this was happening until I received a letter from a collection agency. It was pretty obvious she was the one who opened the accounts, as the address on the accounts are hers, and it looks like the statements are from mainly where she shops. When I dropped our son off on Monday, I told her I found the accounts, and I'd have to go to the police unless she paid them off completely right away. She denied it at first, then said if I went to the police, she'd disallow visitation for safety reasons. Unfortunately, she'd be able to do this, and has done so in the past, requiring me to go back to court with my lawyer to force her to follow the parenting agreement. That's how I gained all holidays shortly after the divorce, basically as a punishment for failing to comply with the parenting order, but still allowing her to be the custodial parent. I don't want my son to have to go through this, but I am certainly not taking the hit to my credit for what she's doing. I'm probably going to make the report, but is there anything else I'd be missing here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Turn her in, and use that to get full custody. Family courts tend to frown upon crime. It would also be good to try to get her threats of parental alienation on video. Talk to your lawyer and start gathering evidence. Wait until he finds out that she used the kid's social security number to open more cards. If she hasn't yet, she will if he doesn't go after her. First off, I love how she went from denying it to threatening. Great level of trustworthiness right there. Second, literally treat her like anyone else. Someone committed fraud against you. Report it and take care of yourself. Third, drag her back to court for damages and request the parenting agreement be amended. It's clear she can't be trusted with finances, and that should be grounds for losing some parenting rights. If she's violated the parenting agreement before, point out this isn't the first time she's made executive decisions. The brain cells that think committing fraud somehow gives you legal leverage is hilarious. Now for the first update. There's some good and some bad, unfortunately. Since this started several months ago, she has been horrible. I went to the police regarding the credit card accounts. Getting the report was painless, and they said it happens a lot. Both of the credit cards have dropped off my credit report. My credit is back to normal, and I've set up a credit monitor, and to make sure it doesn't happen again. It doesn't look like she's going to be prosecuted for opening the cards in my name. I was told when I made the report that it would be up to the credit card companies to cooperate with the prosecutors if they wanted to go through with fraud charges. Apparently, they don't cooperate most of the time, but I can still ask the county to prosecute on behalf of myself, which I did. In November, I got a form letter saying they wouldn't be prosecuting my case. I asked a criminal defense lawyer I know about it, and he said the county maybe goes forward with 10% of criminal cases where people get arrested. It's nearly zero where there is no probable cause for an arrest. He said his job is basically just working out deals for clearly guilty people. He also said to let it go at this point, so I've come to terms with the fact that she's not going to have criminal charges, and probably not even a lawsuit. She also did exactly what she said she would do, and stopped letting me see our son. I've documented every single instance, about 30 total, since September that she's failed to follow our court-ordered custody agreement. I finally got her served at work. That's another thing I don't like about family courts. And she claimed I was abusive and manipulative. I had the police report for the credit cards and basically said the visitation violation started the week after I made the report. The judge basically gave her a final chance to follow the order before he would grant an alteration, and she'd possibly face criminal charges. The first child exchange after the hearing a couple of weeks ago. She said she needs more child support and alimony, asking for an extra $1,500 a month. I told her absolutely not. Last week I went to pick him up. She never showed up, and I got a documentation number from the police. Next day, new account detected email. I got the account canceled before the card was even sent to her address. I froze my credit, made another report, waiting for the will not prosecute letter. She's failed to show up with him ever since. Got her served at work, and our new hearing is in a week and a half. I know eventually things are going to work out, but she's really testing my nerves. This is exactly why credit card fraud is so rampant. Nothing is ever done about it. What's with exes trying to pull some of the dumbest things ever? It's pathetic and embarrassing on their behalf. It's because there are no consequences for her actions. She's opened 3 credit cards in OP's name. No consequence, just a free $6,000 bonus. She's ignored the custody order and received multiple warnings from the judge, but no consequences. In the meantime, she's caused OP so much trouble and headaches, with almost no effort. That's likely the end goal. It will continue until she actually faces some form of consequence for her actions. I wonder what he'd find if he checked his kid's credit. If she did it to him, there is no way she didn't also do it to her son. Poor kid's future credit is probably already toast. Now for the second update. It's hard to say if this is good or bad, but I'm going to take this as a win. My ex-wife didn't show up to court, and the judge granted my request for what amounted to a major alteration of the custody agreement. We have another hearing in a couple of weeks, which is to confirm the new order and give her a chance to defend herself. I will be the primary custodian, and my now wife and I couldn't be happier about it. The judge also ordered my ex to bring our son to the hearing, something she's never had to do before. Last Wednesday, I got a call from DCFS saying my son was at the hospital, but only as a precaution to get checked out. I left work and got there about 45 minutes later, just as he was about to be cleared. I hadn't seen him in person in a few weeks, and we both cried. DCFS said my ex and her boyfriend got into a physical domestic, and during it, my son got bumped and fell into a coffee table. He ended up needing 2 stitches on the side of his head. He got a CT and everything was fine. He said he didn't want to live with my ex anymore because he doesn't like the boyfriend who moved in. CPS and I agreed as part of the safety plan, he would be staying with me until the next court date. Both my ex and her boyfriend were taken to jail, both released the next day, and it looks like they aren't being charged. He's 12 and pretty resilient. He explained that my ex and the boyfriend argue a lot, but that was the first time it got physical. I drive him back and forth 30-ish miles for school every day, and the school knows not to allow my ex to pick him up, which she tried to do on Tuesday. She has texted me a couple of times asking to talk, and I told her we will deal with this in court. I wish I didn't get him like this, but I know he's safe, and it's starting to look pretty good for me on the legal side of things. Also, no surprise, but no charges are being filed for the new account she tried to open several weeks ago. Edit. I'll clear up a couple of things here. 1. I would love to press charges on my ex for either keeping my son from me or identity theft. The prosecutor's office here just straight up isn't interested. I've been completely open and helpful. The original police report spells it out perfectly. The county just doesn't want to bother with it. 2. I've checked my son's credit. Thankfully, the only thing there is the credit card I added him as an authorized user on. My lawyer told me freezing his credit could backfire if my ex doesn't have the PIN, as the court might look at it as finance-related. I currently monitor both mine and his credit with the credit alert service recommended in the original post several months back. That's how I found out about the newest account she tried to open. It saved my butt. 3. I already pay for everything related to my son. Clothes, tuition, sports, everything. Which is why it chapped my butt that she wanted more. Ugh, I remember this from last month. I hate it for the kid, that it took him literally getting injured for anyone to do anything about this. But at least he's safely with his dad now. Also laughing my freaking butt off at her pestering him to talk about this. Oh, like you didn't? It's kind of a crappy thing for me to say, but it's kind of a good thing the son got hurt, and only mildly. That's only going to help OP in court. Yeah, I'll take a couple stitches and a scan in exchange for getting the heck out of that house. Totally worth it. The way she's behaving, I wouldn't be surprised if the ex and her new boyfriend were involved in drugs. With her being so desperate for money, she tried the credit card fraud again after being found out the first time. I hope OP will be able to keep full custody of his son, with perhaps supervised visitation only. I wonder if CPS will mandate drug tests for her, or if OP can ask for that in family court. I'm not familiar with the protocol with CPS, but with OP's luck with the legal system so far, my guess would be something like, well, substances weren't explicitly involved on the altercation, so we can't mandate tests, or something. OP can request it, but it doesn't guarantee it'll be granted. I had my ex's live-in girlfriend drug tested. It was costly, and the order was she test clean or couldn't be alone with my kids. Second story. Found out my husband, 26 male, has secretly spent all our savings. Don't know if I, 27 female, can trust him anymore. Original post. My husband and I have been married for almost 2 years. Tonight, we had the worst fight we've ever had, and I'm seriously considering spending some time apart. We're both hardworking and make pretty good money, especially for our age. We paid for our wedding ourselves, and 4 years ago, we bought and renovated our own home. Money has never really been an issue in our relationship until recently. One of the reasons we've done so well is because we've always been diligent about saving. When we were aggressively saving for our wedding and home, we put away 30% of every paycheck. After the wedding, we agreed to a more manageable 20% savings rate to build up our emergency fund and plan for the future. Kids, a new house, a new car, etc. I've stuck to that commitment. In fact, when my husband's car died unexpectedly, I covered the full cost of a replacement without needing a car payment. When our HVAC system failed, I paid for that too. Despite these big expenses, I've still managed to keep up my savings and have a solid emergency fund. Tonight, I found out my husband has saved nothing. We've always had a system. His steady paycheck covers our monthly bills, and since I freelance, my income goes toward bigger expenses, like student loan payments and unexpected costs. It's worked well, or so I thought. When I asked him why he hasn't saved anything, his excuse was that he's always paying off the credit card, which, for the record, only he uses. I went through our budget, and based on his income, he should have at least $3,000 left over every month after covering expenses. So I asked, where is that money going? He had no answer. So I checked his statements, and what I found was infuriating. Nothing that suggests cheating, gambling, or anything extreme, but reckless, obscene spending. We've had serious conversations about his spending before, and almost a year ago, I made it very clear that he needed to stick to our financial plan. Not only did he break that promise, but he's also somehow spent more than he earns, dipping into our savings. I'm ambitious and goal-driven. I dream big, and we've always talked about our future, where we see ourselves in 5 or 10 years. He's been especially eager to start trying for a baby, and while I've been on the fence, I recently came around to the idea. Until tonight when I realized we have almost no savings. Now the timeline for having a child, delayed. The plan to move out of a town we both hate, out the window. I feel completely blindsided and betrayed. He's made multiple promises he hasn't kept, and when I confronted him, his solution was to put half of his yearly bonus into savings, even though we already agreed that bonus would go toward paying off his massive student loans. At this point, I don't just feel disappointed, I feel disrespected. I don't understand why he went behind my back like this, or why he thought I wouldn't notice. I've lost so much trust in him, and I don't know how to move forward from here. Would time apart help? Can trust even be rebuilt after something like this? I'm at a complete loss. Now for the top advice before reading the update. It's hard to respond, given you haven't said what he's been blowing thousands on every month without that being noticeable to you. Something's weird about this story. Honestly, it doesn't completely make sense to me either. When I went through the statements, it was just a ton of random purchases. Tech, eating out, ordering lunch for work almost every day, spotting his siblings' money for things, impulse buys, Costco trips that added up way more than I realized, and just general mindless spending. Nothing huge on its own, but over time, it drained everything. I trusted that he was sticking to our agreement, so I wasn't monitoring it closely, which is why this all hit me so hard. Reading what you wrote, something you said stood out to me. One of the reasons we've done so well is because we've always been diligent about saving. When we were aggressively saving for our wedding and home, we put away 30% of every paycheck. When I compare those statements to everything else you have written, it seems that you should have been using I rather than we while writing. You and your husband are not on the same page financially. Financial issues are the #1 cause of divorce, for a reason that you're currently discovering. This is a big deal, and there are no simple solutions if you want to remain married to this guy. If you take time apart from your husband, it would really be for you to give yourself some space to think and weigh your options. I see couples counseling, a possible financial literacy course, though beware of the investment or quick riches ones, and a long hard think about if you want to remain in this marriage as the most likely options. Because you are closer to the situation, it's highly likely that if you take a breather for yourself, you will think of other options. Bare minimum, start thinking in terms of getting yourself out of the town you hate and not relying on your husband to help you with your goals. If he grows up enough to actually help, then it's a bonus. Now for the last update. I wanted to come back and give an update since a lot of people had strong opinions about this. First off, my husband is not some reckless mooch, and this isn't a case of me supporting him while he blows through money. He actually covers most of our monthly bills, while I handle the bigger but less frequent expenses, like quarterly and annual payments. That setup works for us, since my income isn't the same every month. He's also an incredibly generous person. He loves picking up the tab for friends, buying gifts just to make people smile, and always putting others first. That generosity is one of the things I love most about him, but when you aren't keeping track, it adds up fast. And for those assuming I don't make real money because I run my own business and do freelance work, this is my first year going full-time instead of working a 9 to 5 and then grinding on my business at night. I wouldn't have had the courage to do that without him, and I never would have made the leap if I didn't have a partner with a steady paycheck, even though my business has been doing really well. That said, I know I've failed as a partner too. He wasn't upfront with me when he started struggling to pay off his credit cards, and while he absolutely should have told me, I should have checked in more too. I thought he was spending the way he was, because he was still able to while keeping up with our savings. Instead, he was dipping into our savings to cover his credit cards, and instead of telling me, he tried to handle it himself. He knows that's not okay, but I also need to make sure he feels comfortable coming to me before things get to this point again. To clear up a few things, no, he is not trying to trap me with a baby. We both want kids. It's just about timing. No, I am not unemployed. I run a successful business and do freelance work. Just because I don't get paid on a bi-weekly schedule doesn't mean I don't make good money. Yes, small purchases add up fast. Lunches out, spotting friends, video games, gifts for family, random Amazon orders. It all snowballed into $3,000 a month before he even realized what was happening. Moving forward, we agreed to close most of his credit cards, put his full paycheck into our joint account instead of just half, so we both have visibility on spending, and stick to a firm budget that still gives him personal spending money. We haven't decided yet if we'll fully merge everything, but we are going to be a lot more open and accountable with each other. At the end of the day, this isn't a deal breaker for me. I love my husband, and I know he loves me. We both want this to work, and we are both putting in the effort to make sure it does. Thanks to everyone who gave helpful advice. Hopefully, this is the last time we ever have to have this fight.